Hello and welcome to In the Studio with Daniel. Today's guest is Lisa Hopp, medium, energy healer, angel worker, and life coach. So here we are with Lisa Hopp, and she's my guest today and in the studio. So Lisa, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I work full-time in Woodbury as a psychic medium, also as a Reiki master and teacher, and we'll explain a little bit about that coming up. I also do hypnosis for meditation purposes, and I think that's basically it. That's pretty much a full-time job.
Right. And your office is located up in Woodbury. We'll put all that information in the show notes.
Sure.
And it's called Serenity Harbor, correct?
Serenity Harbor, that's correct.
All right. We touched a little bit on Reiki. Now, on our interview, I want to really focus on your life coaching and your intuitive abilities. But it seems that all tends to go hand in hand with energy healing. So let's talk about the energy healing modalities that you use.
Well, the primary one that I use is Reiki, which is a natural healing modality, just hands-on. Many people might think of it as faith healing. It is a modality that you become attuned to, which means you don't really learn it. More you get what is called an attunement, which opens up your channels.
Right.
To be able to channel it into other people. It's a wonderful healing practice because it has no side effects, and it knows where to go, much like aspirin. And so basically during an appointment, I'll put my hands on the client, and you can move your hands around, but it's really not necessary. And it goes and channels where it needs to go to clear out and detox the person, whatever needs or is a desire to happen at that moment, and then comes back out and clears out and channels back out through me. And the wonderful thing is I give it and I get it at the same time, so it's a win-win.
Right. As we funnel and channel the energy, we're getting it as well. But I like that analogy you use. It's like an aspirin. It just knows where to go.
It knows where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Now, as far as angel work, I know that you do some angel healing as well as part of your energy work. Is that correct?
As everything I do in my work life, I was called to that. And interesting enough, I went to get a Reiki healing myself. And during this session, the practitioner told me that I would be incorporating angels into my Reiki work. And a couple of months later, I got that aha moment. It was time to do that. And so what basically happens during a normal Reiki session, what I like to call a team of healing angels shows up. They come down, I see them as white beings with beautiful eyes, and they will surround the client, and they also will do healing on the client at the same time I am. And they always come with a book of the client's life, and they will start from the present age and go right down to zero, sometimes even into their past lives. I just had a session the other day where many things that the client had buried comes up, and in that coming up, it's now able to be released and let go of. And they're very loving about it, and when they're done, they always kiss the client on the forehead and rise back up, which is amazing.
That's
and
awesome.
I get to see that because I am a medium, so I see them arrive and I see them kind of go to work, and they tell me where to put my hands. So it's not like a regular basic Reiki session. You kind of pretty much start from head to toe and then flip the client over and do head to toe. But during what I like to call angel healing, the angels would tell me where to put my hands, and they're putting their hands at certain places as well. So we're all working as a team to clean the client out, to clear all of the toxins emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and sometimes physically out of the clients.
Right.
And often during an appointment, the client will cry because they're releasing. But also they often have just a sense of relief that secrets are coming out, because it is private, it's confidential. And it's such an excellent opportunity to kind of start with a very much a blank slate.
Excellent. Yeah, it's I know it's amazing. In fact, I recently was sitting with Jane Dempsey working on some IET, which I know that incorporates the angels. And I actually had said to her, well, I've been kind of doing this for some time now. I'm learning this new modality, but I actually bring in, for me personally, it's Michael, Metatron, Raphael, sometimes Uriel, or the feminine counterpart Ariel, when I'm doing any type of energy healing to beam with me and to assist me. Are there any particular angels that you like to work with?
I have my own healing team, so I don't really go to the archangels or to anyone in specific. They come together as a team for me. Now, often during an appointment, someone may come through for my client, who may be Michael or a past loved one, or even what is called an ascendant master, like Mary or Jesus, depending on what the client needs. So I don't really call one specifically. I just call my helpers.
Right.
And my helpers include a big team of angels, which sometimes if you're blessed enough, you can see if I walk into a room, they kind of come in with me. And I also have a big team of spirit guides that I work with. So I pretty much just say, come on guys, we're ready to go to work, and I know they have my back.
Absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing with all the divine beings, is that they're all just as powerful and just as useful and just as divine. So some people, myself included, tend to want to fall behind that comfort shield of, well, archangels or this and that. But there are so many millions, infinite amounts of angels and energy beings out there that work with us, and it's so wonderful. Now, you're talking about seeing. For those of you who may not be familiar with the clairs, there's clairvoyant and clairaudient, the two most popular, seeing and hearing.
Right.
Clairsentient, sensing. Claircognizant, where you're kind of given impressions mentally, almost like they're downloading information to you. There's actually a fifth one too.
Well, there's smell.
Yeah, well, that's the clairsentient. I didn't know the actual name for it, but it was the smell.
Yeah, it's you have to see.
Okay. So. What I'm curious about, I know you're clairvoyant, and I will, in working with you, I know you're several of the clairs. But would you like to maybe share a little bit more about what clairs you exhibit and how you use that in your mediumship?
Well, when I sit down in an appointment or in a group, the clairvoyant, which is vision, I see pictures. I use pretty much all the clairs in my work. For myself personally, outside, in my personal life, I'm more using the knowing and the smells, and the hearing in the clairaudient. But in an appointment, I have all the clairs working, not always at the same time, but it can happen at the same time, usually one at a time. For instance, perhaps I'll feel an energy of someone come in, and then I'll see them.
Right.
And then I'll hear them. And then I'll know what's going on. So they all kind of line up like A, B, C, D sometimes, and sometimes all at once. It's really depending, I think, as well as if it is a loved one, how they come through. But any one of them, it doesn't matter if you have one or all, as long as you have a good, strong one, which I think everybody does. Everybody has one clair that is their strongest. Tapping into that and using that to help you in life is the way to go.
Absolutely. But I've learned early on that you certainly were blessed with the ability to have many simultaneously, whereas I think a lot of people have one or two. Now, for me personally, I'm still very new to this. The channeling just started, a little while ago, and that was all claircognizant. It was just, I was just talking and the information was coming. Recently, I've been able to have a little more dialogue in my own head, two-way dialogue. And I have seen, but it's not been something where I haven't been fortunate enough to have fully open sight just yet. But I would love to be able to see the angels that are working with me.
Well, it's a process. When my whole life has been a process. And once again, maybe the word blessed is used too much, but for whatever reason, I have been well taken care of, and very much as I asked, I received. And I remember a time myself when I could see but not hear as much as I wanted to. But what I would know, the day that it finally happened, I knew it was the day. I'm going to try this today, and I heard. And so I think I always say to my clients, but also to my students, that when you're ready, the teacher comes, you receive. But you have to be patient because they know what they're doing. Heaven that universe always knows what it's doing much better than we do. And so when we have that strong faith and that immense patience, we'll always be rewarded. Matter of fact, they love to reward faith and patience and hope. And so...
And that's the whole time of
it's a step.
Divine timing and divine order, and it goes hand in hand with manifestation. If you're chasing something, it's going to keep running away from you.
If you try too hard, you'll block it.
Yes.
So it's so important to go along with the process, and one day when you least expect it, you'll have all of them. You know, and that's those moments are the moments of awe.
Right.
I still get excited.
Yeah. Well, when I do my angel cards, sometimes there'll be such a synchronicity, and I'll almost giggle. I'll be like, it still amazes me. And it's not that I've been doing this so long, but it still amazes me when I know how it works, and it still just catches me off guard how clear it is.
I just turned 50. Can't believe I'm saying that.
You would never know that.
But I've spent, I think my whole life, I was born open. I was born with a connection to heaven. I don't have a moment when it started. I came with it. I can remember being a toddler and knowing I was here to be a spiritual teacher and asking how to do that. And so, but still, even with that said, every week I learn something new. Every week I have that new magical moment, that awe moment, and it makes life better. It makes life so much more happier and joyful to be tapped into that energy, to see the synchronicities, and to also to have the opportunity to learn something every week. And it just, you know, and it also humbles you. I'm humbled anyway by my work, but every week when I'm still learning, there's no way I can really get an ego, because I always have more to learn.
Right.
Each step of the way.
And it keeps the journey interesting. It keeps you wanting to continue the journey. I was speaking to someone at my regular 40-hour-week job one day, and they were talking about, don't you ever get tired of this or talking about this or doing this? And I actually said to them, if you work at a workplace and you work there for 20 years and you haven't gotten a raise and there's been no incentives and you haven't gotten a promotion, you'd be done with working there. So in this journey, because there's so much to see and so much to experience, and it's continual evolution, it never gets boring.
And you never stop having that evolution.
Yeah, it's continuing.
You'll be 99 years old and there's still more to learn. Yeah. So you
6 lifetimes in, 99 years old.
Right, and then we probably get to do it again in some way. So it's wonderful.
So touching base actually on when you were young, if you don't mind sharing, would you like to tell us some of your early stories, your early experiences, as far as how your journey evolved from then to now?
Well, gosh. As I said, when I was born, I was just immediately open to heaven, and I knew immediately that God or heaven existed, and I saw spirit around me, and I knew things. I thought it was natural. I didn't think it was supernatural, paranormal, and it is. I've learned that it really is the natural way that things are. I didn't realize that others weren't experiencing that, and so I started to talk about it as a child, and you get teased, and you feel different.
Yes.
And so I stopped talking about it. But every once in a while, if I thought it was safe, I'd bring it up. I even have like a message in one of my yearbooks. It said something to the effect of, "Aren't you lucky that your family doesn't die?" or something.
There you go.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Another time when I thought it was safe to speak about it. But I can remember seeing them around my bed, but not always recognizing them. And they would be people. As I got into my preteen years, 11, 12, they became very solid. So I screamed a lot. I screamed for, I think it was like 9 years. And I was awake screaming. I wasn't having nightmares. I would wake up and there would be people standing at my bed or in front of my closet or coming through my window. And some of them I would recognize as grandfather or other people I would know, but some I wouldn't. And they would startle me. So I would scream out. I would know if things about to happen. What I learned early in my life, that if I cried a lot one night, someone was about to die.
Oh boy.
And I wouldn't understand at that moment why I was crying so much, but then I would hear about a death. So there's certain things, ways of me picking up. As far as wanting to use it for my career, that's something that came much later in life. I felt that strong connection. It brought me joy. As a child, I had a strong imagination. I was a performer in my own way, because I think you channel. You use that right side of the brain. So mediums do that, and artists do that, and such. And so I did that as well. But as far as using as a career, it just came down to what brings you joy. And I remember saying for a long time, I wish I could had enough money to be able to help people spiritually. And then finally realized, why can't I do it? Like, what was the hold up? Why was money a factor? And then I took a leap out of the business world and decided to go full time as a psychic medium, but also as a hypnotherapist and as a healing teacher. And I have no regrets.
No turning back.
It's been awesome. Yes.
Well, that's the messages I give with a lot of people during my angel card readings, is taking that leap of faith and you'll be provided for. But it's one of the hardest things as a human ego brain to do. And that's pretty amazing. Now, when you're talking about crying is like one of your symbols, is it that a lot of this stuff you've picked up and learned because you're like tangibly feeling like the grief of someone's passing, things like that?
It's called being an empath. You pick up the energies of people around you. Like when you walk into a room, there's a lot of negativity, you feel it. It's the same thing. So I would pick up the grief of those before they passed. And so I would naturally react to it. I watch it today. I've been so very helped with protecting myself against that. I don't really have to do a lot of protective measures anymore. If I have a doubt about what's around me, or if say for instance I'm picking up too much of someone's emotions or of an environment, I might put a white light around me. I might go for a long walk or a long drive. That usually helps to block it. That's enough for me. I don't really have to do a whole lot of intense practices in order to protect myself against other energies. And I've always had the angels helping me. They have always chased away that which is of a lower negative energy for me, which is another thing that I don't know why it was so easy for me to get that help, but they've always been there. They've always been there to be teachers, but also to be guardians and protectors of me as well.
Well, that's, when you have an entourage like that, and this is part of your soul journey and part of your life mission, it's in their best interest to keep you safe and protected so you can better serve and do what you've been called to service.
I always tell my clients and anyone that I talk to, I'm not special. I feel like angels and spirit guides, our loved ones in heaven, they're always there to help us, and all we have to do is ask. Because our free will does get in the way sometimes. But for me, I asked for my feelings of help, because that is a prayer, by the way, I have recently learned. I saw it happen where I had a feeling and I got a response. And it was just another wow moment. But I say that everybody that's alive has the same ability to ask for help, to receive it. I think I found it came quicker for me, but I think it's because I was more open. I was that different child that was more of heaven than of earth.
Right. Now, being you were so open from a youth and you had this knowledge, were you able to recall past lives, or?
Yes. I remember sitting in church at 6 years old, and I don't know I was raised Catholic, which most mediums are, I think.
Many of the spiritualists are, it seems.
Because I think the wonderful thing about that religion is that it gives you a solid foundation. It gives you the discipline of continually reciting the same prayers over and over again, which tends to strengthen your connection. I always say that maybe if I was scared, I couldn't scream, but I can recite an Our Father, Hail Mary like nothing. It's just embedded into me. Yeah. And so I think it's a wonderful foundation to really strengthen that connection, even though it's not, the religion itself is not for psychic mediums. It has been a wonderful training ground for psychic mediums.
What's always amazing with the Catholic faith is that, of all the religions of the world, the Catholic faith is the one that recognizes that all this is real, and they just kind of ward against it. But, they have an entire wings of the Vatican dedicated to demonology and occult studies, and it's pretty incredible, because they know the truth of it all.
It's very human.
Yes.
Man sometimes wants to control things the way they want it. But I can remember at 6 years old sitting in church, and I think they must have mentioned like one life, and I went, no, I've had more. There's more. And it was just a knowing.
Right.
And I didn't feel the need to stand up and challenge in the middle of the mass, any of that. It was enough to have the knowing and have the peace of that. And I can also remember around the same time walking into school and telling my teacher that my name was not Lisa, my name was Bill. And and it wasn't playing around. It was a memory. And occasionally I'll have those memories, but we probably don't have enough time today, but I've even learned there's a whole lot more going on about even past lives. Not really past lives. They're lives. And they're all happening at the same time.
Simultaneously, parallel to each other.
So I'm actually also very grateful and blessed to be able to have visions and knowing of that in my life, that even right now, there are other things going on, that there is a smaller boned blonde Lisa somewhere right now living among other lives. And so I love that, because I am the infinity of it, the infiniteness of it is just so amazing. And I think maybe 10 years ago that would have been too much for me to absorb, but now as I continue to grow as a person, I'm ready to hear such things, and once again making life amazing.
And that's been one of my biggest lessons, and a lesson that me and Eileen have tried to work on a lot is, even though the greater truth of the universal energy that we refer to as God is for the best and it's the most wonderful thing ever, not everyone is ready for those truths yet, and it's stages, it's little baby steps. Even where I am now, I have a long way to go, certainly. There's certain things that I'm like, that's a little far-fetched for me.
Yeah, it's
in 10 years, they will manifest as the truth of my reality, I'm sure. But I try to do better with this as far as knowing who it is I'm quoting. But you were touching base on the parallel lives, and we were very resonating very much so with something we were watching on Guy MTV, and it was talking about just that. Time travel is not forward and back, it's sideways.
Right.
And it was actually, I forget who that was, but it was also channeled by Darryl Anka, Pauline's brother, who channels Bashar, the star being. And he too was commenting on that, about it's all happening at the same time.
Yep.
And it's a left and right, not a forward and back. And I really resonated with me as truth. Now, many years ago, it would have been like, what? And it's little steps, and not everybody's ready. Religion certainly plays a key role as a basis for people, and I fall back to my religion all the time.
Well, it's a good basis. It's good for group prayer. It's good for that support in that way. It has to be careful about fear, because there's no need to fear.
Right. And that's the biggest,
not God.
And that's the biggest role that man has played in. I will take the risk to say this, but corrupting religion is when man took over dictating religion, it became about control by fear. And a lot of the spiritual essence was removed for just to be religions. And that's where, we kind of set things a little astray. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, what I learned early on, even as a very young child, 5 or 6 years old, is if I had that knowing, then that was the truth.
Right.
And that was enough to know that I had that truth. And like you, in the past, I would be directed, because I have spirit guides, as I said, and they would throw books in midair and plop them in front of me. And some of the books that would come into my area to read would be books that would be large, and I'd be like, not yet, I have to file that. I'm not ready for that yet. However, you want me to read this. So I'll read it, and then I'll put it aside and see what I think about it later. And a lot of what was too much then, I can now embrace.
Absolutely.
So sometimes they give us little hints of what's to come, what we will be ready for, maybe even to test us too, to see if we're ready to learn or to hear it. But that's the amazing journey I've had, is that I do have such a such a strong team of helpers that they will knock me in the head with a book to get me to pay attention and to teach me, and synchronicities and coincidences. So pay attention for them, because we are always being guided and helped and loved and comforted in this everyday life.
Yeah. And I try to give the message a lot to people about synchronicities. Don't ignore the fact that the clock always says 11:11
Right.
or 4:44 or 3:33 or 12:12, or that when you go to the store, it catches your attention that
Exactly.
at Wawa it was an even $5. Those things don't happen often. When they happen, there's the most basic way that our guides and loved ones and guardians and angels can communicate with us. And when we start recognizing synchronicities, and we start being more aware of the signs they're showing us,
Right.
the easier it'll be for us to receive and interpret. Would you agree with that?
I do. I also think that you'll get more if you notice them more.
Right. If you're
Because
looking for them, they will come.
respond. Exactly. And it's important to notice them. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to doubt it. They're obvious when they come.
Right.
It is like the same numbers, or even if you have like, you're in traffic and every license plate has the same number, or a bumper sticker that even speaks to you. At one time, I remember sitting in my office, and I thought to myself, I have lost, I think, a little bit of my connection with Jesus. I want to reconnect again. And probably about 30 seconds, a minute later, I stood up, looked out the window, and this huge truck went by, and on the side it said, "Jesus is with you."
Yeah. There you have it.
And I just went, okay. That that happens all the time, and it's so amazing. And I wasn't looking for it. I just happened to notice it and realize what I had just done and connected it to.
Yes.
So we have to be careful not to get so caught up in our everyday lives and the reality, so to speak, that we like to get whirlwind into, and miss those synchronicities, because they're there all the time. Our loved ones in heaven, our angels, our guides, they're with us constantly. We're never left alone, and it's only us blocking them that's missing it, because they're always there and they're always trying to talk
It's
to
our
us.
own resistance to it, whether it be fear or
our lack of
thinking
attention
it's
to
not
it.
good or
Yeah.
whatever.
That too, yes.
Absolutely. Now, part of your mediumship and intuitiveness is a medical intuitive, correct?
Yes, I have, and it's one of those things, I don't know how I can do it, but I can. What I learned early on in my career, and once again being guided, is even with the mediumship, people would say, "Can you do this?" And I would say, "I don't know, but I'll try." And with the medical intuitive, people would ask me, "Can you look within my body?" And I said, "I don't know, but I'll try." And I could. And when I look at someone, I look at them like an x-ray, and I always tell people, much like Superman, I look in you, not at you. And so I'll see your organs, and I'll see your blood, and I'll also see your emotions, because we store our emotions on our body. So I can, now the one thing is, I'm not always sure. I'm still learning about what organ is what, but at least I can send you to a certain direction. I can tell you, I think it's the liver area, get that checked out.
Right.
Or it's in your chest and this is what's happening. But that's one area that I do because it's of benefit, but I always have that nervousness of what will I see. But happily, most of the time, I'm telling the person about stress, or I am also validating what they already know.
Right.
And I just the other day gave some really good validation to someone who was a little bit concerned. And I will say this, I'm not a medical doctor, and I always make it very clear that whatever I pick up, you're always supposed to go to your medical professional and get it checked out. And I often would get that phone call that thanks me for sending them if I do see something, because something was there.
Right.
So I feel like I'm preemptive. I get it energetically first, because all illness shows up energetically first. And I'll see it, and then we'll send it off to doctor and see if it's there.
And it's incredibly important for that to happen, because so many people are non-symptomatic
Right.
of issues, and energy blocks and energy clogs will definitely manifest as physical
Right.
illness and disease. So it's amazing that that's one of the abilities that they've given you to be of service to people. And it's amazing because I would term this like you were called to service, but in the end, it's not that you were called to service. You are doing exactly what they want us to do. You are living your joy. You are living what makes you happy, which is why you are so miraculous. It's people want to do it and they're fearful to do it, but you've just embraced it and have just done so much and made such a difference, especially in our local community. I know with your guidance and just your energy in general. So now, one of the other things you do is life coaching, which kind of ties all this in together.
It really
People
does.
can come to you for a reading and kind of get a little gambit of everything. Tell us about that.
Well, some don't really want to come to say someone with intuition or to hear from past loved ones, but they do want maybe some counseling about what career they should have or what they should do about their relationship area. So we call it life coaching. It's very popular nowadays. So what basically happens is they sit down and I'll ask them questions that have them start to think about things. One huge one is if you could do anything today, with money not an issue, nothing an issue, what would you be doing today?
Right.
And that oftentimes, believe it or not, actually blocks them up because they've never given them themselves the opportunity to think about it.
Right.
But that's the homework. And so it's amazing to me who wants to come to me with that. But I basically guide them along, get them started, give them some homework, give them tips and research of how to get going on really following that life purpose in their life. Now, sometimes I have a natural intuition, but I don't give them a reading. But if I know, if it's emanating from they're a server, if they are really meant to be in a service type career, like a nurse or a teacher or something, we go there. We do go there. But it's not really about that. It is more about having them get started on really evaluating what brings them joy and what they can do to begin. And honestly, it's about baby steps. Even the millionaires and billionaires will tell you that any movement at all towards what you want to do, any dream, a baby step is fine. So sometimes it's just a matter of researching on the internet and seeing if it's possible. Like I did. Is it possible? What can I do to have this full-time career and be able to pay the bills and be happy and not have to have like a 9-to-5 job?
Yeah. And it's you were saying
a regular 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, but hey, it's what it is, you know. There is again, I'm bringing this up because it struck a chord with me, and I feel bad I don't have the actual term. But years ago, I was going to a chiropractor. And I'm laying, and there's this little postcard on the roof, and it was like a 3-letter word. And I'm sitting there, and of course, it's to start that conversation. So I gave in. I was like, okay, what's that? And I forget what the word was, but it was a Japanese philosophy that if you can change 0.1% in a better direction of your life each day, in 1,000 days you'll be a whole new person. Mm-hmm. And it's really is just that simple. One little tiny thing, you're keep little course corrections to keep you where you want to go.
Well, it comes down to happiness is an inside job. It's up to you. Change has to come from within you. We're not really capable of changing others or changing situations. We have to change how we feel about a situation and how we feel about others, which is always accepting them. And so when you get into that inside work, the happiness and looking at that and what would truly make you happy. Last year, I just I just want to say I started a new chapter in my life. So I sat down one afternoon and decided to work on who is truly Lisa, who is authentic Lisa, and what does she do, and how does she feel, and such. And I knew I wanted to keep my work because that's what I love, and so that was maybe able to expand a little bit, and has a little bit in some expansion. I just officiated my first wedding in this summer. Nice. So that's a little bit of an expansion on it. But right after that, I knew Lisa always wanted to play a instrument. So I signed up for guitar lessons, piano next, because that was something that was always there my entire life. And that's wonderful because it's artistic and it's like, it actually helps me with my mediumship abilities because it is like a meditation. Absolutely. So they all work and each helps the other, so to speak. It's wonderful. But I also knew I was a swimmer, so I took up swimming. And so these different aspects, and I was willing to go forward and to do whatever that answer was as to who I truly wanted to be, just to live authentically. And I think that's the key. is being willing to live authentically. And if you're in a job that you don't love, you're not living authentically. If you're in a relationship that isn't serving you, you're not living authentically. But if you have any, I want to say, courage and inspiration to be able to start to do that, even in the smallest way, you'll see that the environment outside will support you. Like if you're just willing to have any thought of change about that, you'll see people around you respond to it. And that's amazing, because that's honestly the energy, because we're all connected by energy. But it's not only it's the energy of God and heaven and universe, but it's also the energy of other people that pick up on that.
Yeah. Well, you certainly carry a lot of energy, because ever since we sat down, I've had what I refer to as the cobwebs. I must have scratched my face a dozen times since we've been doing here. I got the tingles all over my face.
Oh, that's a good thing, right?
Yes. Well, that means it's
Well, I
good.
love talking about my work, so actually I'm pretty calm today. Normally I get a lot more.
No, you're a pro.
A lot more of an aura.
But just I want to touch base one thing with the life coaching. You were saying how you kind of get them thinking and pose questions that they already know the answer to. They just have to search for it.
Right.
And I think that, and see if you agree with this, I think that is the biggest key to anything, is that we all know the answers that are most appropriate for us, because I can't convey my journey's lessons to someone else, because their journey inherently will always be different than mine.
Right.
So we have to turn inward to get the only truthful answers that we have, and we already know the answers. We're just looking for that confirmation with somebody else to tell us.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about life coaching, why people come, is because I'm a third party. I can be objective. And so getting the validation from me is much better than getting it from your mother or your sister or your best friend.
Someone with no vested interest in the outcome.
No vested interest. I mean, I am for the 60 minutes that you're with me, but after that, I honor your free will and I set you free. And so I think that is priceless, that validation, because it does tell you, like, people sometimes just come to me and just want to know they're not going to fall on their face. If I do this, will I be okay? And we're always going to be okay. But it is nice to be able to say, yes, it might be a bit of a storm or a rocky time, but you're going to be okay and it'll be worth it. And so that's that wonderful reward that I get in seeing that person light up in front of me, because they have been holding back and wanting to follow through with things and been fearful.
And sometimes we just need to be reminded that we are, in fact, a part of the divine, and we have a huge support system. We just need to recognize it and call on it for support.
A support system that doesn't have the limitations that we have on Earth.
Absolutely.
That can talk to people for us when they're sleeping. Yeah. And help us with that, and can give us opportunities in job and in business, and where it just works behind the scenes. I call them like little elves, and they will recalculate if we want them to, if we change our wills or our minds. But they are constantly at work for us, this other side of the realm, of the veil, and it's so priceless and valuable to use them. So I really have to encourage everyone every day. I ask for help. I don't ask for help probably enough. But when I find like I need it, I have no problem going and saying, okay, give me a little bit of a uplift or a reassurance at this time. And I 100% of the time always get it.
Right. Absolutely.
In amazing ways. I have a book coming out.
Well, that's what I was about to touch on next. So,
I knew that was coming.
Of course you did. You're psychic. But with everything that's going on, and again, that continual evolution, what does the future hold for Lisa Hopp?
Well, the book's been coming out forever, but it was stalled because it's evolved. And so it is a book. It started out, for instance, as me as a medium and talking, mostly trying to help people with how to feel that connection to heaven through common signs and through their own stories. But then about 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm in remission now. It was a divine happening that has brought more blessings than I have time to talk about. So in the journey of getting through that with radiation and chemo and eventually a stem cell transplant, it strengthened my connection to heaven and also to my work in a lot of ways. It opened up a lot of aspects of me, made things sharper and greater. So the book has evolved into talking also about my journey and how I was helped through that journey. It's called Held by the Light, and some of the events that happened around the time when I needed it. I was basically carried through it. And each step of the way, now, I will say this, when I was diagnosed, I asked that day, will I live? And I got immediate yes. So that did help me. But each step of the way, whenever I would have a moment when my will was down, or I was overly tired, or just having a slow start, I would always get that uplift, a sign, a direct sign, and in the most miraculous way. So that book shares that, as well as the experiences of other people, and just the common ways and relationships that we have with heaven and the other side as a whole.
That's incredible. And you're incredible. The fact that you can look back at having cancer and say what a blessing it was.
It totally remodeled me. It was
pretty incredible, because you understood it was part of divine timing,
I knew exactly
and part of
what
your
was
journey.
going on. Now,
so you embraced it.
Now, to anyone who loves me who may see this, it's very hard for someone to watch you go through it, and of course that's that aspect of it. But I knew all along that I was supposed to be a victor, not a victim, and I never felt that way. And so I wanted to know, what am I supposed to gain here? What am I supposed to take? And I was supposed to become a greater version of me. And the greater version of me is more empathetic than ever. I cry now over joy. I went over joyful things more than ever. And as I said, I also sharpened my abilities, but I also enjoy life more to the fullest than I ever did before. It was pretty good before, but now I'm even greater. So to me, it was, and I feel I asked for that. I didn't ask for cancer, because I'm not nuts, but I did ask to become a greater version of me, to go to that next level, and I did, and that helped propelled me into it, that event.
Well, it's a shining example of we're not to worry about the how, the why, or the when. Yeah. We ask and we have to receive.
Right.
And even if we know the inevitable outcome, we still have to live the journey and go through each step. And they're not always easy steps to live, especially for those around you who love you. It's you going through it. Even though it's for the better, sometimes the journey is just treacherous. But you have to keep moving forward, knowing that it's always going to get better.
Well, heaven always gives us wake-up shouts at times, because we put out intentions or prayers, and we put them out with our thoughts, or with words, or with feelings. And heaven hears and says yes. Honestly, it is always a yes, but sometimes the yes you have to wait, or you're not ready, or this has to happen. So, say for instance, we want a better situation with our job, but we're scared. Heaven will give us time to overcome that fear, but then they'll lay us off. We'll have a layoff, or we'll have a health scare, or we'll have a relationship breakup. So these little bumps in the road, these little moments where we think things are falling apart, they're actually rebuilding. They're actually helping us to get to a greater place of joy and full life. And so understanding that does make it better, because there is always a reason for everything. Nothing ever happens for nothing. And so knowing that, it's definitely helped me through life to be able to cope with those times that are difficult, because I am human, and I do feel, and I am in this real world. So I have loss, and I have moments that are definitely challenging in other ways, but it definitely helps to have that knowing that there's something greater is always going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So any information on the book itself, as far as publishing dates, release dates, or is it still in the works?
It's still primarily in the works, but I would expect it to come out in the beginning of the new year. It's probably going to end up in Barnes & Noble, so there will be a bit of a marketing, and online, Amazon, so it'll be a bit of a marketing time, but I'll definitely be announcing it on my website, and which is yourserenityharbor.com, but also you can find my website at lisahopp.com, HOPP.com.
Yes. And we'll be putting all that in the show notes of not only the YouTube page, but when I cross-post this to the Angel Cards page. And I think that's all I really had for you. I really wanted to get you in here and just show the world what an amazing soul you are, and I want to thank you for your service to the community as well as to us personally as a family. And you definitely, when the angels asked me to do this, it wasn't that I don't know where this is going to go, but it certainly was like we were discussing earlier, we need you to do this to prepare for what's next.
Right.
Same thing when I was quote unquote painting the angels. Like
Right.
that sort of phased away, and now he moved me to this. We're constantly evolving, constantly moving forward, and this is just another step to prepare me for whatever may be next.
Exactly.
But the minute this came about, you were one of the first ones that popped into my mind.
much.
And I thank you. I'm very grateful that
Very
you took the
grateful.
time to be here with me today.
Thank you.
And we will post all the links of Lisa's information in the show notes again. The websites, the phone number to reach out to her. She is booking. What's your wait list looking at right about now?
Actually, it's pretty good right now. It was like 3 to 4 months before. I work Tuesday through Saturday. Saturday is normally are normally booked by groups, so that's a bit about 2 to 3 month wait right now. Day and evening though, maybe just 3 weeks right now. It depends on your availability.
Right.
As far as how soon you can get in. I don't, now that fall's here, I'm noticing it's picking up again a little bit more, so that wait may be a little bit delayed coming up.
It's funny how fall, anything to do with the quote-unquote paranormal picks up. It has to be something with Halloween.
It's a good feel time.
Yeah.
You know, I feel the energies pick up in the fall. But in the summer, I finally got away on a vacation in the summer. I think other people did too. So it gave me the opportunity to catch up a lot, and which I wanted, because I had a wait list for a long time, and then I had a wait, and it was daunting on me to have a wait. So now this wait I can deal with.
Yeah. But you need those vacations. They're important. Those time away. But,
I've learned that.
But yeah, the autumn equinox definitely has a lot of powers. Obviously, it's no accident we're doing this today.
It thins the veil. It
Yes.
thins the veil very much. The change of the seasons.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap this one up. And I thank you again for being here. I thank all of you out there for watching. Look in the show notes for all Lisa's information, and this will be cross-posted. So forgive me for those who see it 2 or 3 times. And with that, we bid you farewell.